glycemic control and to achieve significant weight loss or better weight control. So what are people recommending today from a variety of different areas of nutrition, advice, whether that's coming from RDs or that's coming from physicians, various types of physicians, whether they be more in the area of endocrinology or specialize in diabetes, or whether that be within the area of functional medicine, which is certainly a growing number of physicians countrywide or North America wide. What we see is that the four newest ones are that if you were to take a poll of people who have been offered something that was new and have not been offered prior, it would be paleo diet, ketogenic diet, intermittent fasting, or higher keto. If we were to look at those diets that have been around for in terms of being recommended for a much longer period of time, and or are based on the results from research that has been really attempted to be extrapolated to a general population. We would range from a low-fat, Ornish type diet to the exact polar opposite, which would be a very high-protein plant-based diet, to some of those which have been specifically designed for people of particular conditions or diseases, such as the American Heart Association intervention or diet. And you've got the general recommendations, such as the more recent Mind Plate or the previous USDA food guide pyramid, the Mediterranean food guide pyramid that was put forth by Walter Willett. And of course, you have, then you're going to get into these in various ways. You have many individuals who are, big advocates for plant-based, vegetarian, and vegan diets for good reason. We'll take a look at those in a moment. And this is the newest one, which I find most intriguing because it ties a lot of the common denominators together within this slide. That's the pH balance diet. If you were to ask me what pH balance meant when I was a graduate student at the University of North Carolina 20 years ago, I thought we were talking about some type of shampoo. But now we certainly understand much more about a pH balance diet, what it entails, what its goals are, and again, a growing body of evidence to suggest that that may be a good place for many of us to start from, depending on who we're working with. So, for those who aren't familiar with David Tass's work in the area of public health, he's done a really amazing job. And he put together this paper along with Miller in fact in 2014, so it's close to 2 years old now, which looked at some of the more commonly recommended diets, a lot like what we're talking about today. It wasn't taking a look at things like intermittent fasting or ketogenic, because at that time those diets were certainly not as popular as they are now, just a few years later. But it did look at many of these other diets we talked about, as well as the Mediterranean diet. And you know what David came up with, and for those of you who know David, I've known David for a few years, working together at the Center for Mind Body Medicine. He's really taken this on. He's really a pioneer in trying to address the commonalities between, for lack of a better word, effective diets, good diets, healthy diets. He's really trying to show us over the years the common threads. And what he's consistently come up with, and certainly this review of all of them indicated the same, is that those diets which contain the largest amount of minimally processed plant food, which have not inadvertently been converted into sugars, which have not had the processed meats, which we know contain a certain amount of risk associated with them because of that processing. Time and time again, that is the common thread that can make any of these, as well as some of the ones we're talking about today, real viable options for populations that have specific needs or want to eat a certain way. So it's a great paper. I've included that here. I'd love for you to dive into this when you get a chance. You can look at this in closer detail. But again, it really comes down to the amount of whole, minimally processed plant foods, regardless of their fat content, regardless of whether they may be found in legumes or found in vegetables or found with the sugars that accompany fruits, for instance. That regardless of that, the amount of minimally processed plant material in the diet is the one thing you can say is shared upon by those diets which you tend to see the best overall measurable outcomes when you're looking at a particular biomarker or disease risk reduction. Now, the reason that I'd like to show that slide by Dr. Katz, I also want people to understand there's a lot of confusion around what an actual low-fat diet is or a low-carb diet. That's what makes it very difficult for many of us in our day-to-day practice to kind of read through this literature and understand that there are many limitations with respect to the investigations that have been made in these two areas. Because in many cases, a low-fat diet is one depicted as anywhere from 10 upwards to 30% of calories coming from fat. That certainly wouldn't be low-fat. And again, depending on where that fat is coming from, that could be, there could be certain risks or there could be certain levels of protection that could also be afforded in that mislabeled low-fat diet. In essence, I'm saying that 30% of calories in what is being labeled as a low-fat diet were coming from some highly refined vegetable oil, which has a very high omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. That's necessarily an inherent set of risk factors that would not be found in a similar amount of fat that would be coming from something like coconut oil or olive oil, things we know by looking at the research now have much more favorable impacts on a population's or an individual's health. So, and then on the same thing with a low-carb diet, you can see that many low-carb diets are somewhere between 30 and 37% of the calories coming from carbohydrates. And by definition, that's not a low-carb diet. A low-carb diet would contain less than 130 grams of carbohydrate per day. And if we calculate that to calories, you're talking about 520 calories or less coming from carbohydrates. So for many people, that's considered less than 30%. It's going to be 20 to 25% of calories coming from carbohydrates. Again, depending on the qualities of those carbohydrates, it could be a very different outcome with respect to an investigation that would compare a low-carb to a standard American diet. Again, this is important stuff for us to consider because time and time again, we read these reviews put forth by advocates for one way of eating, whether it's high-fat Atkins or an Ornish type diet, and they're very critical of the other diets. And they tend to pick and choose those studies which they have the easiest time identifying pitfalls within. And if you're going to compare a low-carb diet to a low-fat diet, and the quality of the fat in your low-fat diet is good, but the quality of carbs in your low-carb diet at 34% of calories are predominantly made up of sugars and simple starches, you're going to get a skewed comparison. And I just want everyone to understand that because we're at a point now when it comes to looking at research where quite often the definitions of the overall dietary intervention do not fit the criteria that we would expect. So here are some more active representations, and this is how they typically are represented when they're recommended by the advocates for those. So for instance, like a Walter Willett at the Harvard School of Public Health is a big advocate for the Mediterranean diet. If we look at his typical definition, you're getting about 40 to 45% of calories from carbohydrates, a variety of sources. The fat would predominantly be from things like olive oil and nuts and seeds, and the protein would be somewhere between 10 to 20% of calories, but usually be about 15% on average. So that is significantly lower in terms of the carbohydrate content than the standard American diet. which is going to be giving people typically 50 to 55% of calories from carbohydrate. Not a lot of details there. Some of that carbohydrate intake can be, for many Americans, predominantly refined or high glycemic. The orange side at the top of the list here, in terms of the carbohydrate content being 60% or more, the percent of calories per individual, or for those people that he's looked at, Dean Ornish has looked at there, his research center in Sausalito, California. And again, you're going to find good results with many of these different interventions, whether it's the Mediterranean intervention, the orange type intervention. But typically, this is really important for us to know, is that in these instances, you're comparing those typically to the standard American diet, which doesn't have the quality, the details around the qualities of carbohydrates or the qualities of the fats. And that may be why we see with a lot of these different interventions such appealing results. Now, below that dotted line, you'll see the paleo diet. This is highly variable. I would want anyone to think that a paleo diet was always 30% of calories coming from protein, or that it was always less than 30% of calories coming from carbohydrates, because really paleo only means a few things, which is that it's absent of grain, that it's also absent of legumes, and that it's absent of dairy products, as well as refined oils. So it's easy to see that paleo diet is very high fat or very low fat, depending upon the food that was chosen by either the investigator or the individual in the case of any one type of case study. Then at the bottom we have the ketogenic diet, which is very restricted in carbohydrate intake, again, less than. And that's the definition of ketogenic diet, that should be less than 20% of calories coming from protein. And I'd say that a more accurate representation would be restricted to 10% of calories coming from protein, less than 10% of calories coming from carbohydrates. Again, you see the enormous range depicted here, but if you look at well-conducted research in the area of ketosis and the benefits of ketogenic diet, carbohydrates have to be under 10% of total calories, that would be net carbs, so fiber would count. Protein has to be at 10% or so, or less. And that makes up the difference, which is between 80 to 85% of calories. So this kind of gives you an idea of where this stands. Now, I've not included the Ayurvedic diet on this because that is highly dependent on the individual, as well as the practitioner who sees a particular fit for an individual. And the Ayurvedic diet, again, have high diversity with respect to the fat, the carbohydrate, and the protein content of an individual's recommendations. And I also don't have intermittent fasting on here, which we're going to cover in a few moments, because intermittent fasting, again, could be made up of a wide variety of macronutrients and doesn't have to necessarily fit any of these other criteria. So, I would like to first discuss the paleo diet, which is sometimes often referred to as a hunter-gatherer diet. I have problems with a hunter-gatherer diet because it's either gather or hunter, and as soon as you put hunter on there, people tend to make associations between paleo and a diet high in meat, which certainly shouldn't be the case. The paleo diet, again, as I just mentioned, is free of legumes, it's free of grains, it's free of dairy products. It should be, anyway, by definition of what paleo is. It's first put forth, by Lauren Cordain, who's considered to be here in North America, really the pioneer in this area in terms of showing what metabolic benefits can gain by following the paleo diet, Paleolithic type diet. This is what our ancestors would have seen more than 15,000 years ago before the advent of agriculture. And with this diet, you tend to produce in relatively short periods of time, in some cases, 10 days. If you look at, for instance, some of those pilot studies that have been conducted by Frissetto, you see remarkable results in short periods of time. And again, it's for a variety of reasons, but one of the foremost reasons is that you have a marked reduction in the carbohydrate density of the diet. As soon as you start to remove bread products, cereal products, foods that are made with flour, you tend to have a marked drop-off in the glycemic index, the glycemic load. But again, as I'll say again, or most importantly, in my opinion, the carbohydrate density of the diet. And so people tend to get marked improvements in their fasting levels, and that glycemic control, which you know is important. And they tend to see very favorable results with respect to the triglyceride HDL ratio, or the inverse of that ratio, HDL to triglyceride ratio. So again, I think that whether you're looking at this for cardiovascular risk reduction, i.e. metabolic syndrome patterns, or you're looking at that something like weight control or weight loss, there's a reason why this has so much critical mass behind it as a way of eating. I mean, there are now magazines devoted entirely to a Paleolithic way of eating or weight loss style. There's a considerable amount of research. I just take a few here in the last few years to share with you today's webinar, some of the more recent research papers that investigated this. But there's a growing body of evidence that, well, it doesn't have to be paleo. Some of these paleo principles really do seem to work out in human trials in short periods of time. So again, it's worth looking at as something that can maybe be combined if someone is interested with some of the other interventions or approaches we're going to talk about. It doesn't have to, as both Troy and I have mentioned, this is not intended to be a one-size-fits-all talk. This is really trying to get us to, as practitioners, as investigators, for those of us who are interested, to ask, more importantly, most importantly, I would say, questions that surround the relationship between ways of eating, dietary patterns, and influences that it has on human health. I just don't feel that these questions are being asked enough. Other populations that eat a paleo-type diet, there certainly are. They're being looked at by a variety of different researchers, from those in the area of diabetes and resistance work to those who are focused primarily on the microbiome and maybe the roles that the microbiome plays in the etiology of various diseases. But we look at those areas of Central to South Africa, where populations still follow a very traditional gatherer-hunter diet. There's populations in South America that also, again, have that very ancestral way of eating. And some of these populations will have modest to small amounts of dairy products and grains in their diet and do remarkably well, even with that included. So again, it is, I think, both very fascinating for us to take a look at these populations, and at the same time, I think it is also interesting to see that there may be room for hybrids here within the, under the umbrella of whether it's paleo or intermittent fasting. We're going to take a look at in a moment, that it may not have to be all in with respect to these, that there could be room for various combinations. The paper that has really provided the greatest physiological explanation for why people tend to see great results with a paleo-type diet would be the work of someone such as Ian Spreadbury. This paper, which looked at the ancestral diets, their acellular carbohydrate content, which is i.e. grains and grain products, and how that really drives a variety of inflammatory conditions that may ultimately arise from aberrations within the microbiome, especially in the distal small intestine, where you get bacterial overgrowth in response to some of these very high carbohydrate dense diets. This paper is free to any of you who want to look at it in entirety and in great detail. Production Press Online. It's a wonderful paper that was really focused towards diabetes and diabetes control, and it's now really become a landmark paper when we start to look at what it takes to not only reverse diabetes and some symptoms, but where we can really produce favorable changes in other areas of health as well. And if we take a look at the relationship here between carbohydrates and foods and particular effects, again, this all is going to be downstream of what happens when bacterial populations in the different small intestines, tend to reach that overgrowth level when they're fed a high carbohydrate dense meal day after day. And if you take a look at those foods, many of our ancestral foods have very, very low carbohydrate densities. And it's only when you start to look at those things at the top of this horizontal bar graph that you get carbohydrate densities, which unfortunately make up the foundation of carbohydrates in many Americans' diets. Here are the most common misconceptions around ancestral or hunter-gatherer type diets, paleo diets. One of the most common misconceptions, as I mentioned earlier, that they have to be high protein, that they have to be low carbohydrate, that they are going to inherently carry a high metabolic acid load or high potential renal acid load per hour equation, that they have to be very high in saturated fat, that they're going to produce very unfavorable changes with respect to serum cholesterol or any other lipid biomarker. Many MDs and RDs have concerns that they're going to be too low in fiber, that they're not going to be nutritionally complete, or that they're going to, again, carry some type of inherent risk factor associated with them, either that they're not providing nutrients or that they're going to put someone at greater risk of cardiovascular disease and or diabetes. And I want to say that with all of these, none of these are true. All of these are in some way, shape, or form, they are going to be preconceived notions that a lot of people carry forward around this type of dietary recommendation. Someone could follow a paleolithic diet, eat sweet potatoes at most of their meals. They could eat fruit at every meal. They could get the majority of their fat from things like avocados and other nuts and seeds. It's time and time again when I work or talk with this type of dietary intervention, this is what I hear. I just want to say that there's no evidence whatsoever to suggest that this type of diet puts people at greater risk. And again, as I shared, there are a significant number of papers now show that it can produce favorable outcomes, but may not have to be all or nothing. There may be important principles from a paleo type diet that could be applied without having to forego one of the food groups, such as whether it's dairy products or legumes or something like that. So again, just things to think about as we go forward. And now we're going to look at intermittent fasting. Because intermittent fasting has become very, very popular for many individuals who have struggled with either their weight, with their energy levels. They are looking for another option as opposed to calorie restriction or low carb, where they feel like they're hungry all the time. Intermittent fasting is, again, there's a growing body of evidence suggesting that it is extremely therapeutic, especially for particular neurological conditions or neurodegenerative diseases, as well as for individuals who are looking to gain control over their control of their weight. So there's a couple different ways that someone could come upon a recommendation to go forward with intermittent fasting. Just really what it looks like is you want to restrict eating to anywhere between 8 and 6 hours a day, so 16 hours a day when an individual is not eating. The reason that's important is that, the postprandial state or fed state can last for, anywhere from 4 to 5 hours, depending on what the composition of the last meal was. And the post-absorptive state can last for up to 12 hours, even longer, again, depending upon that last meal and the individual who consumed it. But that fasted state typically doesn't start for much, it doesn't start much sooner than 12 hours. In some cases, maybe a little bit one way or the other, and that's going to be a function of the meal that was last had and the individual. But these are the general recommendations for intermittent fasting is, people do not eat after a certain time in the evening or late in the day, and then they don't eat until sometime around noon or so the next day. And the reason this is more beneficial for some individuals is that there are really important physiological processes within the human cell that start to become upregulated with a more prolonged abstinence from food, avoiding that postprandial or fed or absorptive state. You get out of those windows of time, you start to have higher levels of autophagy, which is a really important process for a cell's ability to recycle damaged cellular hardware, whether that be protein manufacturing factories such as the rough endoplasmic reticulum or the mitochondria, which can become damaged, especially as we get older. It's also, autophagy is a very important way for cells to kick viruses out of the cell. In some cases, like in the case of the herpes virus, it's really the only way that the human body can a natural physiological way defend itself against particular viruses which become embedded into cells and can evade normal autophagy at low levels, which would only occur after around 12 hours or so not eating. It takes a little bit of a longer window of time to get some of those viruses completely out of the cell. Apoptosis or cell programmed death, again, important for those cells which are damaged genetic material to basically self-destruct and to be eliminated from our cellular pool. And ketones really start to climb after around 15 to 16 hours. So important details are that the fats and oils do not interfere with intermittent fasting, so having a significant quantity of fat in the early morning can still allow this intermittent fasting process to roll on. The protein and carbohydrate sources do have to be restricted to very modest or small amounts in that fasting state. So using something like coconut flakes, for instance, can work as long as someone is eating so many coconut flakes that the carbohydrates and the protein levels creep up to a level that will interfere with this intermittent fasting. Ketogenic diets, which have some overlap with intermittent fasting, are those which are very restricted in both carbohydrate and protein content. Again, I mentioned that there are varying recommendations made in both clinical as well as in outpatient type settings where people are given much wider ranges of carbohydrate and proteins to choose from than the research would actually support. What I mean by this is that if we take a look at I'll come back to the slides, but if you take a look at some of the recommendations that have been put forth over the last several decades with respect to ketogenic diet, quite often we get 4-to-1 ratios of fats and carbs and protein combined, with some cases even 3-to-1. Those are not nearly as effective as more detailed recommendations around the fat, protein, and carbohydrates. This is important because someone could get more protein at, let's say, if their protein was something like 20% protein, no carb, but their fat was 80 to 4-to-1 ratio. But at 20% protein, there's a good chance someone is not going to see ketosis because that level of protein is very easy for the body to find ketosis with that start to manufacture higher level of glucose from that. So it's really important to have the details in place when you are considering either recommending a ketogenic diet for an individual or developing a type of protocol for your institution. It's also important to understand saturated fat and monounsaturated fats would be the best, most beneficial fats to have as the foundation for that large amount of fat in the diet. And that fiber be present at almost every meal if possible because, again, for non-starchy vegetables, there's a way to use things like potato starch and other sources of resistant starch that would not distribute any net carbs to an individual's metabolism, but it's really important that it's not simply a highly refined diet made up of no fiber or low fiber, and you made up of highly refined vegetable oils, because that will not really offer additional population benefits that a well-formulated, more specific and detailed ketogenic diet will. Other things that people should really understand is that it's received a bad rap from its early days when it was used primarily in the 1950s. Again, so you know that the American Medical Association recommended a ketogenic diet as the primary recommendation for children with epilepsy in the 1950s, and it had significant amount of effectiveness to that, but then it became looked at as too cumbersome, too difficult to follow, and a lot of the fact that it was based on like this mayonnaise diet where you're having very high fat mayonnaise like dressing with so many of a child's meals or foods that eventually the child is always thinking, how would I know? I'm just tired of mayonnaise. So it's important that when a ketogenic diet is recommended, that the family or the patient be advised how to cook, how to make foods much more flavorful with healthy additions, herbs, spices, things like, again, coconut in a variety of different forms, not coconut water, I should know, but coconut, with a shredded coconut oil, as well as things like grass-fed butter and whipping cream. These high-fat dairy products can be a foundation for a ketogenic diet. It can also help immensely, not only the palatability and the diversity, but it can help immensely with the absorption of particular nutrients, which can offer further benefits to the initial reason that the ketogenic diet is being recommended therapeutically. So if I go back just a few slides here, I know we're running low on time. We talked a little bit about the research to support the ketogenic diet. It doesn't have to be in any way unpalatable. It doesn't have to be overly restrictive. I think that most people have that idea that a ketogenic diet is too difficult for an individual to follow. But again, I think it's the way that a patient or population is educated that makes or breaks the effectiveness or the long-term compliance with the ketogenic diet. But protein really has to be closely monitored just as much as carbohydrates, to be honest. And in fact, I would say that most people are overly carbohydrate restrictive and are not protein restrictive enough. It's just about that sweet spot with respect to ketosis, which is somewhere between 1.0 and 3.0 millimoles. That's really, you want someone to use a ketone meter. I think that would be really important. They're widely available now from both the clinical as well as retail basis. But I really want someone to use a ketone meter. We're not talking about the type of ketosis here that is associated with starvation-induced ketosis. It's really important I say that because there are, again, a lot of misconceived or preconceived notions, I guess, around what ketogenic means or ketosis means. We're talking about having ketone levels in the 1.0 to 3.0 range as opposed to the 5.0 and higher range, which really only occurs with long-term starvation. So unfortunately, quite often, ketogenic is synonymous with healthcare practitioners, providers with starvation-induced ketosis. These are not the same. We're talking about fat, healthy fat being a staple of the diet. And again, it's been shown that a ketogenic diet tends to spare muscle loss, also produce favorable changes in many of these blood lipids that we want to look more closely at, such as HDL and triglyceride levels. And for those individuals who have unique neurological patterns, whether that be some type of brain cancer or again a seizure disorder, when you look at how a ketogenic diet influences things such as the mTOR pathway, SIRT1 generation, AMPK levels, it's really clear that the ketogenic diet has some overlap with a calorie-restricted diet, but it doesn't have to be calorie-restricted. It can still provide an individual with the energy to maintain muscle mass, because ketones also help with that. But that's the protein restriction, as well as keeping insulin levels low, that produce these widespread benefits. Ayurveda, which again, as I mentioned, is a growing area of interest and recommendations being put forth by people who are in a variety of places in medicine. And I've met so many people over the years who have used it as part of their practice, either on a personal level or in their own practice as a dietitian or as a physician, a clinical physician. And I think when you take a look at the research available to us in all the published peer-reviewed journals, you really, unfortunately, only have this one peer-reviewed pilot study, which is a couple years old, which looked at it as a potential intervention for weight loss, and it was combined with yoga. And again, I think the two are often introduced to an individual or a group together because they tend to have their roots in the same place, and it's more a way of life. Ayurveda is much more a way of life, as is the paleo type intervention, and just a way that people are recommended to eat. There are a long list of papers written by numerous researchers that are asking for more research in this area because they see the potential for Ayurveda to help individuals or populations. Because Ayurveda contains a variety of herbs and botanicals in it. It can contain very healthy fats. It can be focused around more fruits and vegetables, displacing grain-fed meats with healthier legumes. So, there's really, I think, growing interest in Ayurveda for so many reasons. Again, this is really the only clinical paper that I can share with you today. So in terms of that strength of research that so many of us are looking for, it's not there. It's not where we really maybe want it to be. But I'm hopeful that in the years to come, that more and more organizations are going to consider funding research around Ayurveda-based or Ayurveda-based interventions. Because again, in terms of what I've observed in India and what people shared with me here in North America, a lot of people have found good results with Ayurveda. But in terms of somehow measuring its efficacy with clinical papers, I'm sorry I just don't have more at this stage in time. Now, the last diet that I want to take a look at is the pH balance diet, which I remember clearly 25 years ago, the first time I heard this, it was really only being proposed as a possible intervention because of the work done by nephrologists in two different areas of the world, San Francisco, University of San Francisco, Thomas Reamer, and then it was also being looked at by a group of nephrologists over in Germany that were showing some very interesting results with their attempts to manipulate the potential renal acid load of the diet, how that affected not only the renal health, but other areas of health in the population they were looking at. Again, these were just small pilot studies. Now what we know is that there's a very significant body of evidence showing that the potential renal acid load of a population's diet, i.e. the metabolic acid load that's associated with the foods they eat day to day, can really predict a significant amount of risk or risk reduction depending on whether that diet is acid loaded or more pH balanced. And again,